All right, welcome to Z's Bees. This is the hive that we added the second super box to 2 days ago on Friday. So we're going to dive into it. Not necessarily that we have to do an inspection at this point, but I just want to see how it's looking in there. So I don't expect the feed to be gone yet. This burr comb up here is because I had this with ventilation initially. Now I flipped it around, so we have that. So let me just see. Okay, so we have quite a bit of food left, and I'm going to actually leave this upside down. So what I want to see is that they're eating the pollen patty still, and then I want to see that they have moved up into, just unstick this pollen patty. So we see that there is some bees up on top. I'm going to set that out front. And Chris, if you want to come nice and close, they're not very flighty at all. And excuse me, hold it right over the top here. You can see the amount of bees that have already moved up right into that super.
Geez, yes.
So we'll take the pollen patty off. Let's see what they did. So they're just starting to get into this one. And there's also quite a bit of pollen coming in. Let me peel this off. That one's still good. When you look at the pollen patties, you want to make sure that there's no small hive beetle larvae in there. They like to have pollen. It's a good food source. So I'm just going to see here. This is the frame that we put in that was undrawn. I'd love to see a little bit of drawing on this. And look at this. You want to get an angle? Look how fast they're drawn out. This is really good. So I always just look for the queen. She would very unlikely be up here. But this was an undrawn frame that they're already starting to draw out. I'm going to put this here. Oh, I don't knock over my smoker. Really good temperament, even in this cloudy weather. So this was a frame of nectar and honey that was given to them. So most of that capped over honey was already there, and it looks like they had no issue moving up into that. So I'm just going to slide that over. Now this is the frame, if you remember from my previous video, had the mold on it. One of the questions always is, can I use a frame that has mold on it? You look here, there isn't a speck of mold. And one thing that I see here, look at all the shininess in here. Now that could be sugar water, but they could also possibly be bringing in nectar already. You see some of the bees over here with their faces right in they're storing all that honey already. Let's see what we look like on the other side. Again, they're taking care of all that mold. No issue there. All their faces are buried in here.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to move over. I don't necessarily need to inspect every frame up here just because this is, and I feel a little bit of weight, which means that they're storing nectar, which means that the flow is probably beginning. The temperament is really good. You see this one here has yellow pollen, maybe dandelion in their pollen pouch. Now I'm really looking for the queen just because this is a really nice frame that she could lay in. And the nice part that I see here is that there's nectar on the outside, and I hope that they're leaving this open for the queen to come up and lay. So I'm really going to pay attention to this next frame because they're setting it up to be a brood frame. This is looking really good. Remember, this is just 2 days. You hear that hum that just started? Just starting to realize that again, all this was empty comb. They're storing some, cleaning it all up. I'm really going to look hard for the queen there. Nothing there. Frank, you might want to move over a little bit. You're right in front of the hive. And so that's where you see all of them. Yeah. So you essentially threw off their return signal because they didn't know where their entrance was. Look at this. Again, I'm really going to look hard for the queen, see if she moved up yet. That's the hard part about having yellow foundation is that it's hard to see eggs in the comb. Okay, so this is exactly what I wanted to see in this upper, and I'm actually really surprised at the amount of population already in this upper. And I can see that this other frame, now this one's pretty heavy. This was a frame of food. Looks like they're storing pollen in there. Check the bottom, make sure there's no queen cells started. And again, they are just doing work. And let me show you this frame right here. Again, this was an undrawn foundation. Look what they've done already. That's 2 days. 2 days only. That is absolutely wild. I freshly waxed these frames. They come waxed, but I've learned that if you put a fresh coat of wax on them, I roll it on with a paint roller, that they draw it out much faster. So this is really, really good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these tight. I didn't see the queen there. We'll bring these back. I knew that I took out that second frame. Really, really good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this up. And Chris, if you want to take one step behind, I'll show you one of the ways. You slide your box a little bit forward, and you can tip it up. And what I'm doing here is I'm looking to see if there's any queen cells. Now this is a new box. I wouldn't imagine that we'd see anything yet, but it's a nice quick way to check and see. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this box, even though there's all the bees in here, I'm just going to set it right here for right now. This is a good opportunity to scrape away some of this burr comb. It makes it a lot easier. I'm going to set it there for now. They build that not only for, well, just additional comb. A lot of times when you have foundation, they'll build drone comb in there, and then it's also for ventilation. So they'll build it in different areas so that the flow of air comes through and goes different areas. So again, this was where we installed our nuke. These 5 frames were all the nucleus colony. We had this frame, these 5 were all brand new. I can tell you right now, just by looking at it, that our feeding and our pollen patties has really increased their production with drawing that out. Those are fully developed cells, and I see eggs in each one of them. You have to have really good eyes on this, Frank. If you look in there, there's like pea-sized, you look in these, there's like a little speck, or like a millimeter.
Oh, you're expecting me to see that?
So, Chris, I don't know how close you can get, but if you look in those cells, you can see a little speck. So this is going to be all brood here. And then this right here is food. So let me just, yep, every one of those has an egg in it. Let me just make sure.
Queen's not here?
Queen's not on this one. I don't see her. But look at the temperament of these bees.
Yeah.
Chris, the one who's filming right now, doesn't have a bee suit on, and I don't think there's been a single one by her. So not all bees are this lack of aggression. I shouldn't say aggression, protection. But these are all really, really nice. So I'm just going to set this one here for right now. Even though there's eggs on it, I don't want to keep that out too long. Let's see if the queen has made her way over to this new frame. They're drawing this out really nice. This one I don't see eggs in this one, which is fine. This would probably be a nectar and pollen frame to feed that brood that they just laid. So now let's take a look and see. Now I really want to check and see, do we have any queen cells? Nothing on the bottom. We're looking for like a long peanut shaped. This is all, there's capped over brood. There's capped over brood, and then the white stuff in there, that is larva. Then it'll go to the pupa stage, and then So this I can tell right now is newer brood. You look at the yellow color. So that is all laid since we installed that nuke. You see these bumpier ones, those are drone. So that's looking good. We've connected a lot of these together, so I want to make sure I lift straight up. And you'll see there's a lot of junk on the bottom of these. Completely capped over. So, and again, when the nectar flow starts, this colony, we want to time it right. That this colony, look at this, this is really cool. This is a combination of nectar, pollen, and brood all in one. Look at this, look at the yellows on by my right side. So I'm looking down here, I'm looking at, in particular, I'm looking at this right here. It's more probably drone, but it's not what they call charged. That just means that the queen didn't lay in there. I don't see the queen on this frame. I wouldn't think so. But this is getting really close to hatching out. Whoop. You do a sudden move like that and the bees let you know, you can hear the roar of the buzz. And they start to kind of come out a little bit. So again, I'm going to lift up really slow. I don't see any queen cells. Here's a perfect frame to kind of show. So you have all this yellow pollen intermixed. So they'll use and then you have honey around the outside. So they'll mix honey, pollen, they'll create what's called bee bread. This frame looks like it's getting old. Let me see if I can see any bees that are coming out. I don't see any right now. Don't see our queen. Again, I think maybe on the next frame, because this one's pretty loaded. Make sure I don't roll too many bees when I put it in there. You never know if your queen is nearby. Amazing temperament on these bees. No queen cells. Boy, they have so much pollen. Look at all the yellows and greens and oranges. Their organization is a little different here with having so much pollen in the brood nest. The queen is finding places to lay, and like we saw, she's already laid out that one whole frame. So the fact that I didn't see any queen cells or cups even started yet is a really good sign. Let's keep a close eye on this one. Look at that. Boy, what an awesome pattern. This is a really strong hive. Really strong. And I wouldn't be surprised if this next frame that's all freshly drawn out, the queen hasn't already made her way over there. Well, she has been over here. Look at all that. This was a brand new frame. So up right here, that's all laid. We may have to watch this hive closely because she's got a lot of brood. Huge population coming. Oh, and this one too, look at this. Outermost frame. Brand new hive, outermost frame. Beautiful white wax. Can you grab that one and just slide it in?
Which way to go?
Yep, just like that. Just, yep. And this is mainly nectar and pollen. That's wild. What a strong colony.
We didn't find the queen, huh?
Nope, but we saw signs. So those eggs that we saw in this frame down here, and maybe she's on that one, is signs that she was there probably yesterday. So when you go into your hive, you don't have to worry too much about finding the queen. You really want to just look at signs that she is, yes. So let me take one more look at this one. I think I just saw her. Did I see her? Nope. So she might be on that one, or she's in the upper box. So whenever I do it, I always set it down with the bar. This is called the bar, the top bar. I always set it down so I know that I flip it towards myself and it goes in that way. That way you remember the orientation. Yeah, pupa, different stages. Might have to make a split off of this hive yet. Yeah, so this is all laid over here. Just curious if she's over here. Don't see her, which is fine. We have all the eggs. I just really get a close-up of, see if we can show everyone all the little tiny specks that are in there and the difficulties on seeing the specks on yellow foundation. So now this one is here. What I'll do is I'll push this back. Nice and tight. I'll take this here. What I'm going to do is smoke a little on that side. There's not many bees there. That is an awesome hive. So you see they all just kind of came out towards me. I made a real sudden movement there. So they're letting me know they had enough. But for 2 days, to see them clean up the frames that had a little bit of mold, draw out huge population. We're gonna have to watch this closely just to make sure that we don't need to do a split. And by split, I mean that there's so much brood that they're gonna want to swarm. If we can maintain this big nest and get them to come out right during the nectar flow, that's the type of population that you want. So when they go out, I mean, this hive right now, just looking at it, the fact that it's, what is the date today? It's Mother's Day. If we can get this for another 2-3 weeks, that population's huge. This has the potential for potentially, 40, 50, 60, up to 100 pounds of honey, even though it was a nuke install. So really pleased with that. We'll take our pollen patty. I actually had 2 in here. We'll lay that over the nest again. Just because they haven't chewed through yet, I'm going to give them a little more access. Just break through, that way they can get right into it. Now you may be thinking, there's a whole bunch of honey, there's a whole bunch of nectar, there's a whole bunch of pollen already in there. Why am I still feeding? Well, again, I want to keep that queen going like crazy so we can build up the population in order to then have a huge population for the nectar flow. We'll put our bucket back on. I'd say that's still 3/4 full. That's it. Any bees by you, Chris? No bee suit. Yep. I was gonna say, I think I put on all the protective clothing because it was a little cooler out. It's about 55 degrees, but no issues whatsoever. So Thanks for watching Z's Bees. We'll continue to monitor this one as we get into the nectar flow.